forward and say that it's my honor and privilege to interview you. You've been my coach and mentor, and I dearly love you, Jeffery Combs. And for those of you that don't know Jeffery, he's an internationally known speaker, writer, and author. He's coached over 12,000 clients, which equals 60,000 hours of teaching time. And I first met Jeff over 2 years ago when I went to a seminar in New Jersey. I then hired him to be my coach. I went out to Sacramento, California, where there was a breakthrough event, and I watched him, myself, deal with not only people with addictions, but successful business owners that were struggling. And that's why he's here today, to talk about addictions. Jeffrey's a master at breaking down why people do what they do. And with that said, Jeffery, welcome. And if you would tell us about what happened to you in your journey from 1988 and how you've stayed in the game since.
My absolute privilege and pleasure, Lisa. You look so spiritual today. You always look energetic, but there's this glow about you today. So it was don't forget, 1 year ago, last weekend, I had got to spend the weekend with you in Long Island. So great to have an anniversary with you. A little bit about my history, Lisa, is as I graduated from high school, I had been an all-state athlete. I was a very good student, and I had what looked like a lot going for me. But as I entered my freshman year of college, I actually fell off the cliff. I went from being an all-American boy to a full-blown certified addict, where I was using marijuana, methamphetamine. Back then they were called White Crosses, Christmas trees, Black Beauties, but most importantly, alcohol. I became a maintenance alcoholic throughout my college. By the time I graduated 22, 23, I started experiencing my first blackouts. I was also experimenting with cocaine in the early 80s, but alcohol was my drug of choice. I was a scotch and vodka drinker. I seldom drank anything but. And by the time I was 25 years old, I'd already had 2 DUIs, public intoxications, hit and runs, assault and battery, and a whole just cluster of transgressions that I had created. And by the time I was 30, I was a chronic alcoholic, consuming a gallon of vodka a day. And what happened to me, Lisa, is I started experiencing delirium tremors. Now, I had gone from all-American boy. I ended up in jail on several occasions. I kept finding myself in more and more trouble. I kept finding myself in front of judges, juries, in legal offices, and trouble just seemed to find me. And by the time I was 31 years old, I was emotionally bankrupt. And I was drinking a gallon of vodka a day. And at the very last day that I took a drink, which was December 16th, 1988, I started having delirium tremors. I went into a doctor's office thinking I was having a heart attack, and he called an ambulance, and they took me to a hospital, and eventually I ended up in a 26-day heroin outpatient clinic. And I ended up getting clean and sober there and have never drank since. That's what led to my sobriety, a whole series of transgressions, a series of events that led to a set of emotional addictions that kept me in fight or flight in an overwhelmed body, and I was using drugs and alcohol to repress those feelings.
Can I ask you a question, Jeff? When was your aha moment when you looked in the mirror and realized what you've become?
What I become back then or
Yes,
today?
Then, not now, then.
I will never forget in October. Now, I got clean in December, but my most despondent moment was October of 1988. I had been through a 3-day blackout, and I noticed I had circles underneath my eyes that were yellow, purple, and black, and they were running down into my face. And I hadn't eaten in 2 or 3 days, and alcohol was my food of choice. And I knew that I was in trouble because I couldn't eat. I'd become suicidal, and I didn't think I didn't have any options, because giving up alcohol was not an option for me at that time. I was trying to control my drinking, but I was so out of control, I was in control of being out of control. Now that's the time I really realized that I was over the edge. I was trying to control my drinking, but I realized that day that I was completely out of control. I hadn't eaten in almost 2 years.
What would you recommend to folks out there? I mean, our readership, that's happening with college students, what's going on at school, it's middle aged to seniors. I mean, what would you recommend with your expertise for people, you know?
Well, first of all, if you feel you have a problem, you do. So move out of a state of denial. Seek assistance. I mean, that's the first situation. Now, that's easier said than done because an alcoholic always wants a little more. An addict always seeks a little more. An addict seeks more adrenaline because addictions create an addiction tolerance. It's not necessarily the drugs, the alcohol, the opiates, the barbiturates. Those are the effects of addictions. The effects of addiction are a direct reflection of the events that shape the feelings. So to really address an addiction, it becomes the whole surrender state. And surrendering doesn't mean you're weak. Surrendering means you're strong. First of all, if you feel you have a problem, admit you have one. Do your best to find someone who has some sobriety and ask for some assistance. Now, this is once again easier said than done because about 99 and 9/10% of the addiction world is addicted to being addicted. So letting go of addiction contradicts being an addict. It would change your whole world. But for those of you who have the courage, the intestinal fortitude to actually admit that you have some challenges, definitely find someone that can assist you. There's any city has an AA hotline, an Alanine hotline, an Alateen hotline. If you feel compelled, call that. Get your first event, get your first meeting. You know, I used to look it up in the yellow pages and know I was an addict. I'd look at the number and I go, no, I can't do that. Tomorrow. Well, tomorrow never comes until rock bottom shows up. Unfortunately, most people quit, Lisa, when the pain is great enough. Now, what happens when you're an addict is you reach a state of meaning where meaning becomes meaningless. And the lower your meaning tolerance, the lower you are to rock bottom. When you're rock bottom and you start to lose your meaning and you've lost all meaning, that's when you become suicidal. I coached a young woman today, Lisa, who she can't get out of bed. She was in her pajamas all day. Now, she's not addicted to alcohol. She's addicted to disappointment. And she spends her entire day in disappointment. And if she can't find someone to disappoint her, she'll disappoint herself. Addictions are huge. It runs rampant. It drives society. It fulfills the pharmaceutical world. The hospital beds are filled with addicts that constantly get medicated with opiates, barbiturates, and other substances to keep people in a repressed state. Then the medical community calls depression and anxiety. They call it depression and anxiety when addicts really repress their feelings. So the number one situation is seek help. Let go of your control and let someone to give you some guidance.
Jeffrey, I mean, for those of you, I know we don't have a lot of time together, but how can they reach you, Jeffrey? You know, I know you have your calls that people can call into on Tuesday evenings and your website and, you know, your assistance.
Lisa, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm a good old boy. I'm a redneck from Iowa, so the people can just contact me directly. If you want to contact me directly, my home office phone in Northern California is 209-932-0227, 209-932-0227. And I can be contacted also on Facebook. My name is Jeffrey, Jeffreycombs. You can find me on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram. I'm very easily found. And if you want to converse with me, send me a message with the phone number and I'll get back to you immediately.
And that you do. And, you know, Jeffrey, you've made a tremendous change in my life and helped me get to a whole different level with business and with myself. And my gratitude to you is always there. You know, I love you dearly. You've been tremendous to myself, and I've seen you work with a lot of people and change a lot of lives, and I'm always grateful for that.
Lisa, I really love what you're doing. You're actually taking addiction to the newspaper. That's nobody does that. That just shows how inspired you are about your community. I know that you love your newspaper, you love your clients, you love your readers. Yes. I was coaching you when you'd be we had many coaching calls when you were at the newspaper and you were really just driving the bus there, you and your team. So it's an absolute privilege to be on a Skype call with you, or some of your readers can tune into some of my content. So I love New Jersey. I'm actually going to be in New York this weekend. I'm going to be in Rye Brook, New York. Okay. I'll be speaking. I'll be covering topics like self-esteem. I'll be covering addiction tolerance, the science of letting go, how to raise your emotional consciousness, and how to change who and what you attract.
Well, I know you do come to New Jersey often. I know you've been in Saddlebrook, and if you come down to Saddlebrook, that would be tremendous, because this call that we're having, the Skype, this interview is going to be on our website, and we like to put something in the paper as well, and we could get people. My goal here with this series has been to really reach the readers in a way that they can feel free to discuss and to interact with someone other than maybe a family member, and to realize that they're not alone. I mean, this is not only adults, we have young kids. It's affecting everyone. I mean, the opiate epidemic, we're losing a lot of young children, and they feel lost, and parents whose hands are tied and they just do not know how to reach their children. So it's a lot of different ways here that it's getting affected here.
Well, thank you, Lisa. My absolute privilege and pleasure to be here with you today.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey.